Sri Lanka is not just another foreign country as far as India is concerned. What happens in Sri Lanka will have its repercussions on India. And what is more, the stability of Sri Lanka is closely intertwined with the stability and security of the southern part of India. So it is but natural that New Delhi should make efforts to see to it that the ethnic problem is resolved peacefully within the United Sri Lanka.
Some have argued that the elimination of Rajiv Gandhi was necessary for the survival of the Tamil cause.
No, it was not necessary. I think if he had the political savvy, he would have accepted the India Sri Lanka also. Because any politician knows that on certain occasions you advance, on certain occasions you retreat. It is this belief in his own invincibility, that he cannot be defeated, that finally led to his course. Not only the LTTE being destroyed, but also Tamil being destroyed. Because the final stages of war, they were not getting their supply line, they were fish out of water. Any other political leader at that time would have bargained for peace so that they could recoup themselves. The belief that he will be invincible, the belief that the international community will intervene and rescue them in the last moment, the adamant attitude, an uncompromising attitude of Gavagan itself not only led to his downfall, the LTTE's downfall, but also had the tragic consequence of Tamil community suffering irreparable losses.
My opinion is that, India always pretended to play the role of a big brother, but it had never really upheld the interests of the Tamils in Sri Lanka. It had rather used the Tamils as a bargaining chip with the Sri Lankan government. If it had been a big brother or a protective big brother, we would not have allowed, Indian government would not have allowed the disenfranchisement of the plantation Tamils in such great number. They became the stateless people. And then subsequently training the LTTE was a kind of a political and diplomatic throwback at the Sri Lankan government, because at that time when you look at the international politics was that the Sri Lankan government under the leadership of Jayawardene was moving much closer to United States, while we were in much more closer to the Soviet Union.
Revenge was a factor in India's political decisions.
I'm sure that India suffered, even not only because of the Rajiv Gandhi assassination, but 1987 to 89, while we were there for 36 months, we were humbled militarily and we suffered enormous loss. So I could definitely see the connection about this deep sense of revenge.
Do you think that it was a necessity for the LTT's survival to assassinate Rajiv Gandhi?
The killing of any prime minister or any president, even of the opposition camp, including the Sri Lankan presidents and prime ministers, can never be justified under any circumstances. And LTTE just wanted to commit suicide. And it has nothing to do with the survival of the LTTE. It just had to do with the sense of invincibility which Prabhakaran had, and this sense of invincibility forced him to spurn the peace initiative of Sri Lanka and come to a situation where he had to kill himself.
India at the very start, under Indira Gandhi, they were trying to make use of the Tamils of Sri Lanka for their own interest, to have a hold on Sri Lanka. Because India is trying to be a superpower in that region and it needed support. They came as redeemers, but they very soon became killers for us, and so much problem we had. So I myself was in Jaffna and I was a victim of the Indian peacekeeping force when they took my own students and tortured them and all that. So that was happening.
However, India always wanted to control Tamil militancy and the trajectory of Tamil nationalism. The LTTE of all these groups has always been aware that at the end of the day, if they were going to be stopped, if they managed to, override the resistance of Colombo, that Delhi would stop them. They always felt that India was an obstacle in that respect. And so they were very anti-Indian, because the whole notion that Big Brother would swallow you up, that they were not, India was not going to allow a separate Tamil state. Because if India was to allow a secession in Sri Lanka, or indeed in any other part of the subcontinent, what you do with Kashmir, what you do with the Northeast, and indeed what you do with Tamil Nadu. You remember in the 1960s, where it all started in the South, and you moved to create linguistic states. So India is caught in the sort of horns of a dilemma. That's one issue. The other issue, of course, is as a consequence of the assassination, LTTE assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, and the assassination largely on the grounds of, look, if you have strong Indian leaders, they will block us. Right? That, of course, set India, including Tamil Nadu, against the LTTE in particular. Right? And the third one, of course, is that as a consequence of India's ambivalence, etc., because it had to be seen to be supporting the aspirations of the Tamils, but at the same time hard on the LTTE, the Sri Lankan government moves towards the Chinese.